Vilna, the Jerusalem of Europe. It was a city filled with extraordinary Torah luminaries, a city where thousands of people not only knew Shas, but were intimately familiar with it. And in this remarkable city, a child is born to a prestigious rabbinic family. Eliyahu Moshe is born to Rabbi Yehuda Leib Levine. The young Eliyahu Moshe is destined for greatness. He merits to learn in the special cloys of the Vilna Gaon himself. He will become a prominent Rav of such Torah communities as Trob and Zlodek. In Zlodek, Rav Eliyahu Moshe Levine's fame spreads as a Torah scholar, as a tzaddik, and as a Baal Tzedakah too. He was well liked and beloved by all. His method of learning personified the Litvish approach to study. His writings reflect an extraordinary ability to plummet the depths of halacha. In 1901, the first volume of his writings saw the light of day. Yad Eliyahu Chelek Aleph dealt with sugyas and halachic aspects of the Orach Chaim section of Shulchan Aruch. 1 year later, a second volume appeared. This one dealt with the Agaditas sections of the Talmud. Rav Eliyahu Moshe Levine was one of the Gedolim of Europe in the late 1800s and early 1900s. When the issue of what enactments were necessary in order to regulate the issuing of rabbinic smicha throughout Europe came up, there were three signatures on the letter: Rav David Friedman of Karlin, Rav Chaim Ozer Grodzinski of Vilna, and Rav Eliyahu Moshe Levine of Zlodek. He was a Rav so beloved by Klal Yisrael that there was a din Torah as to which city would have the schus to bury him. The author of the Yad Eliyahu is the great-great-great-great-grandfather of the Bar Mitzvah Bacher. The Yad Eliyahu has been reprinted on this joyous occasion of the Bar Mitzvah of Abie Genak.
There's a shayla in the poskim as to what is the very first mitzvah that a bar mitzvah boy observes. Could very well be that my first mitzvah is the mitzvah of tefillah, davening to Hashem. There's a famous machlokas between the Rambam and the Ramban about this mitzvah of tefillah. According to the Rambam, the mitzvah of tefillah is d'oraisa. This is also the position of Rashi in Brahos. Chazal ordained that we fulfill this biblical mitzvah by davening Shmona Esrei, but technically we could fulfill it with any tefillah or bakasha if we have it in mind. Baruch of Ma'ariv would thus be a fulfillment of the mitzvah of tefillah according to the Rambam. So maybe this mitzvah of davening is my first mitzvah. But wait, we have that Ramban you're discussing. The Ramban's position that the Torah mitzvah of davening is only when someone is in a lot of trouble. In other words, when it is an eis tzara, when someone is undergoing tremendous stress or anxiety, then and only then is it a Torah mitzvah to daven to Hashem. At other times, it is only a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. This is also the position of Tosfos, and according to the Mishnah Brura, we seem to paskin like Tosfos and the Ramban, that davening is generally only a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. Now granted, perhaps for me, davening would be d'oraisa according to Rabban, because I do get in a lot of trouble sometimes. Sometimes more than sometimes. Sometimes pretty often actually. The truth is, I don't remember when I didn't get in trouble. But never mind that for now. But I doubt that even I would get in that much trouble on the day of my bar mitzvah.
Chayesara, is that what I think it is?
I cannot believe what I'm seeing. Abie, is this happening? Is that your hamster in my Pshetl? I can't believe this. This is a nightmare. Come and get the hamster this second.
Well, come to think of it, maybe the mitzvah of tefillah is my first mitzvah, even according to the Ramban. But assuming that I'll be a perfect angel, let's explore another possibility. Some say that the first mitzvah of a bar mitzvah bacher is the mitzvah of Kabbalas Ol Shemayim. That would be reciting Shema on the night of my bar mitzvah. This one actually works because there is no machlokas about this mitzvah, and this is what most poskim say is the first mitzvah of a bar mitzvah bacher. I would like to suggest, however, based upon the sefer that my father has republished, the Yad Eliyahu, which you'll get shortly, actually more like the end of this bar mitzvah, that the first mitzvah of a bar mitzvah bacher is an entirely different mitzvah altogether. I would suggest that the bar mitzvah boy's first mitzvah is the Torah mitzvah of listening to the Chachamim. There's a pasuk in Sefer Dvarim, Al Pi Torah Asher Yarucha, which says, Lo sasu min hadavar asher yagidu lecha yaminu shma. Don't deviate from that which Chazal teach you, neither to the right or the left. Rav Chanan Wasserman Zatzal writes that by willfully violating a derabanan prohibition, there exists a mitzvah de'oraisa of Al Pi Torah Asher Yarucha involved. Specifically, the derabanan prohibition, not eating a meal a half hour before reciting the Shema at night. Why would this be the bar mitzvah boy's first mitzvah? The bar mitzvah boy reaches maturity at nighttime, but the very instant he becomes bar mitzvah, he was already observing this mitzvah of not eating before Shema. That very second that he's an adult, he's already observing that mitzvah. Every other mitzvah, there's a lag time. If you think about it, I don't think there's another mitzvah that one begins to observe the very, very first second that one becomes bar mitzvah other than this one. I'd like to discuss this mitzvah a little bit then. The Shulchan Aruch rules that it is usher to start eating a meal a half hour before it is time to recite the Shema at night. The Magen Avram rules that this applies only to starting a meal, but it does not apply to mere tasting or snacking. He quotes the Trumas Hadeshin, however, who seems to imply that even snacking is forbidden. Since this is getting a little bit complicated, I figured maybe we should give a little demonstration.
What are you doing? You're not going to be eating now. It's within a half an hour before Kriya Shema.
I'm not eating, I'm just snacking.
Well, you can't snack either. Don't you know the Trumas Hadeshin?
Wait, don't they teach you anything at tag? We don't pass on like the Trumas Hadeshin. Girls. The Yad Eliyahu brings a proof to the Magen Avram's position that we're allowed to taste foods from the words of the Rishonim on a Mishnah of the third parak of Sukkah. The Ran explains that one does have to stop for Kriya Shema, but that is only in the case of Hischel Be'eser, where he began eating in violation of the halacha. But when he began with permission, he would not have to stop. The Yad Eliyahu brings another proof from the case of eating before Havdalah. Regarding Havdalah, there is an actual prohibition to eat before Havdalah, and yet we see that Hischel Be'eter, if you began with permission, you're allowed to continue eating even when it's time for Havdalah. That's what we do at every Shalosh Shudas. You know how when it stretches and stretches and stretches, you say, Ta, let's go to shul already. In other words, there is no concern for Shema Yipasha, that you might become negligent. The Yad Eliyahu says, the same is true for tasting before Shema. It's very remote and far-fetched that mere tasting would cause someone to be so involved in food that he will completely forget to say Shema. To forbid even the tasting of food would be an excessive chumrah, beyond what halacha requires of us. Perhaps we could see a lesson here about the practice of chumras, stringency. Chazal were not concerned about someone forgetting to recite the Shema in the case of mere tasting, so they did not forbid tasting. Chumras are only proper when they bring you closer to Hashem, by understanding Hashem's Torah deeply. Otherwise, taking on chumras can lead to gaiva, chas v'shalom, where we chalila look down at others. As I enter the path of bar mitzvah, it is necessary to make sure that I am on the right road. This Dvar Torah from the Yad Eliyahu makes this lesson clear. And speaking about the right road, I want to thank my parents, who set a shining example in that regard. Not just for me, but for my sister Leia, for my sister Rosie, for my sister Perry, for my sister Ricky, and my brother Nachum. My mother is an extraordinary balas chassid. My mother's constantly giving away clothing that people drop off at the house. She does the same thing with food. And every simcha that she goes to, she asks people for the food to go to the food bank. In fact, for my bar mitzvah project, my mother suggested that I and one of my friends should work in the food pantry. And no, we did not eat any nash at the time. My father, too, gives of his precious time to make shidduchim. To break shidduchim. Is that a mitzvah? Anyway, let's move on. I'm sure it is. My grandparents, too, also set a remarkable example as to the proper path on which to travel. They are warm, wonderful people whose chesed is truly organic, comes naturally to them. I also want to thank my yeshiva, my rebbeim, my laning teacher, and all my friends and their families for creating a warm Torah environment in which we all could grow and thrive.
A lot of people come in here and study the Gemara, but Abe, he has that Gavaldic Gemara cup.
I guess you really did learn something in yeshiva.
All right, Abie, I did my thing. Now it's time for you to do your thing. What about that siyum you've been doing with Pipa?